Yes, guys, hello, and welcome back to the SpursRelated YouTube channel. Cannot believe we're actually live, and it's been a little while since we were live. I'm actually excited for this one. I can see 7 or 8 of you, and to be honest, fair play to yourselves for tuning in, because it has been an absolute minute. I mean, normally 2 or 3 lives a week, but life got in the way. The World Cup came in, and Spurs have been absolutely, well, not horrendous, but it's not been ideal. But guys, it's good to be back. We are back. SpursRelated, myself and Jack tonight, and we are talking all things Arnaut Danjuma. As you can see by the title of the video, we have signed him. Absolutely unexpected one. Not many talks about this guy, just out of the blue today. Hijacked Everton's deal. What a absolute mess up from them. Had the medical done, had the media done. But Jack, we'll get all into the details. Guys, the guys that are in the chat, absolute pleasure to be back on your screens. Thank you for joining us today. And smash a like on the video and subscribe if you're new, if you've seen the promo from Instagram. But Jack, how you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm doing well. Happy to be back in a Spurs-related live. James, like you say, it's been a minute, it's been a while, but we're definitely, the aim is to be back doing these videos regularly and bringing you content that we do love doing. And I promise you, it is coming, James. New year, new us, time to progress. But fantastic news today. Looks like we've hijacked a deal. Do you know what, James? It stinks of a Willian to Tottenham.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And look how well Willian did at Chelsea.
Yeah.
If Danjuma can do as well as Willian did at Chelsea, I will be a happy man. And I feel like he could be. I've done a lot of research on this man. I weren't sure at first, but the more you dive into the stats, the more if you actually watch him just as a player, it could be a good deal, James. So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll dive straight into it.
100%. We've got a couple of people in the chat already. Adrian, absolute legend, Spurs-relatable. Thanks for joining, mate. I hope you're well. As we said, sorry for the lack of live videos, but hopefully these are coming back. You've got Hugo, in here saying, Enoch out, Levy out. Come on, guys. He's average at best. Hugo, very, very interested to hear not only about Danjuma's sort of as a signing, but also Hugo Lloris's form may come up in this video, because that has been questionable. He is under a lot of scrutiny. But listen, mate, thank you also for joining us today. And it'll be good to keep this video interactive. What we do with the live videos is we keep the questions coming, and you guys can send your questions in for us. We've been across the news all day, looking at the sources, looking at the best sources. So do send in your questions, anything you want to know about Danjuma. One thing you've got to look forward to is on Thursday, we've got the Euro expert on, who's going to talk all things tactics to do with Danjuma and how he plays, what we can expect from him. Will he be a a bench player? Will he replace Son when he's not playing well? We've got all these questions to come. It's time for these owners to sell up. Thanks for the stadium, but move on. I think a lot of fans are in your position as well, to be honest with you, and that's starting to how we all feel really at times as well. Daniel Williams is saying need to focus on other areas of the squad first. Daniel, firstly, thanks for joining, mate, and secondly, I completely agree. I was saying to Jack earlier, I think we need to focus on a left wing back, a right wing back, and a centre back before we're looking at attacking positions. If you look at our form lately, other than obviously the odd couple of good performances in defence, it's been defensive errors that has cost us in games. Yes, we kept a clean sheet against Fulham, but how bad were we against Manchester City? How bad were we against Arsenal? All these games that are totaling up with goals conceded. It is absolutely incredible. And I actually did a bit of research the other day when we went on that run with Pochettino in 2017, coming second in the league. We have already conceded more Premier League goals in 19 games than we did the whole of that season. And that just sums it up for me. Defensively, we are all over the place. We are shocking. At right wing back, we are shocking. At centre back, we are shocking. Left wing back, there's inconsistencies. I mean, I would get rid of Sessegnon, but we can go over that, guys. I want to keep this video interactive. I want you guys in the chat to be asking your questions and let us know what your thoughts are on Danjuma. But Jack, before I come back over to you, mate, let's see what the rest of the chat is saying. Hugo's agreeing with the right wing back, centre back, left centre back. Adrian's saying we need a centre back and right wing back, not a winger. This is the very surprising thing about this signing today. Is I would honestly say that wing is probably our most in-depth position, to be honest with you. We've got Kulusevski, we've got Son, we've got Richarlison, we've got Hill. there is 4 players there that can play pretty much both sides, especially the versatility of Son playing up front as well as Richarlison. I just don't understand the need for an attacker, Jack. What do you think?
To be honest, I'm actually going to disagree with this point, but that's what we love doing here on Spurs Related. Different points, different views. I really do believe we need a winger, and I think that Son has really not been up to the level due to his comfortability. He knows he's the man that's going to start week in, week out because Richarlison prefers to play centrally. And I think identifying a player like Danjuma, who likes playing behind, he's played on the big stage, he's played in the Champions League, 6 goals in 11 games last season, which definitely should not be underestimated. That is a lot. Playing really well for a Villarreal side under Unai Emery. I think he could be the man we need, who's going to push Son. He might not be Prem proven, maybe like someone like Leandro Trossard, but it smells of a Daniel Levy opportunity signing, a 2.5 million loan fee with the option to buy for 27.5, which is not a lot of money for someone who's done it on the big stage in the Champions League. So for me, I think it's a needed signing. Yes, it might not be a priority like a centre-back or a right wing-back, but we're hoping they're both going to come. We've seen news about Milan Skriniar today. Could that be a possibility? Pedro, Porro, everybody wants this man to come through to the door. Crunch talks being held tomorrow. But today, we've had to act quick, get the deal done. I don't think we would have got it done as quickly if he wasn't going to Everton. And James, can you believe it? This guy literally had his photo taken for Everton. He was doing media interviews, and Daniel Levy, one call on the phone, and he's on his way to North London. So, yeah, I'm glad we've acted quickly for once. And I do think it's a smart signing.
Yeah, for sure. Few questions coming in and a few points. Actually, 15 of you guys in here now, which is honestly, it doesn't sound mad, but honestly, I was expecting not many people to join. So we really are grateful for those that have joined. And please do, keep on board with us. We've got so much content coming. The end of the window. It's obviously going to explode with rumors, truths, and not so true rumors. But let's see. Just catching up on chat now. Hugo thinks we need a creative midfielder too because the opposition keep blocking our channels. Opposing teams are blocking our wingers from playing. Miles, good to see you, mate. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Same as Gagetta, the 2 regulars, or 2 of the many regulars are back. It's great to see. Thanks for joining, guys. And I hope you are well. Sorry for just the, lack of content, but we are back now. Daniel Williams saying could end up being more a success. Yeah, we forget that Lucas Moura hasn't been available for a little while. No, our defense is rubbish. Richarlison needs to be sold, and we need creative in mid because Son looks lost in the system. I agree with Son. Son's well off the pace, but Richarlison, is that a bit harsh to say sell him now?
You got to say it's a bit harsh, isn't it? Richarlison's only had half a season, and he had a fantastic World Cup. But then again, it's all about opinions, as I keep saying. Fair enough. If he thinks he needs to replace, but who do you replace him with? Let us know in the comments.
Miles is also saying Richie is much more of a striker than a winger. They need depth for the wing. Hill is not ready to be a serious rotational player. Another debate. This is why we do these lives, right? I think Brian Hill has been not necessarily the most improved player and the one that surprised me the most, but I think he can be an impact player, but potentially not all the time. I think we need that option of a bulkier winger rather than someone that is going to cause problems and win fouls. That's what Brian Hill's good at, winning fouls.
I think he's nearly got that spot on. I think he was a good player with a lot of potential, but if we're relying on him to be a rotational player in big games, then I think maybe Hill is not quite ready.
Felix, good to see you too, mate. Thanks for joining. He's saying I'm a bit disillusioned with Conte. I feel like he is not really taking responsibility for our poor form. As another debate there, guys, is Conte part of the problem at Spurs right now? Is he losing the dressing room? Is he not getting the best out of the squad? I mean, personally speaking, I think it's to do with the backing of the board and the fact that we've got a lot of deadwood that have been there for years. The fact we're talking about Poch coming back, and you've got the likes of Sanchez, the likes of Dyer, the likes of Davies that are all still there from that squad that wasn't quite good enough to win something under Poch, and he's going to inherit it again. It just seems absolutely crazy to me. It really does. Couple more comments. We should have given him to Everton. Smells like another Berg find. Bargain basement. So there's a mixed opinion base even in here about this signing. Nice to sign another winger, says Gugetta, who can take on players. I think so. Adrian says, I have not seen him enough to rate him, but I guess his value has been over 50 million for a reason. Are we talking about Skriniar there or Danjuma?
Danjuma, I think he's not far from wrong there. I think after that stellar season for Villarreal, making the semi-finals and being one of their star players in that run-up, Liverpool, Manchester United were all linked with him for very high fees. So it seems like it's not been the season for him this season. I think he's only paid 33% in the starting 11. But the season before last, he was absolutely fantastic. And we've seen a similar thing with Kulusevski. Wasn't getting the game time at Juventus he required and decided to move on. And look how good he's been this season. To be honest, probably our brightest spark in our last couple of matches.
Absolutely. I want to keep it on track about Danjuma in just a second, because obviously we're starting to drift more about Brian Hill and Conte and everything else, which is great talking points, guys. But let's create some talking points about Danjuma. I'll just do a couple more. Hill would be better off playing for Brentford or Brighton potentially. Dyer's not a centre back; he wants to play midfield. If the board and Levy know that he's going to leave, why would they invest big money in players? Exactly, this is the problem. If Conte is leaving, are we really going to back him? It's a perfect excuse for the board not to back the manager, because they know that he is not part of the project past July. Gugetta is also saying, do we have the option to buy the gym, or is it a straight loan? Jack, you got the news on this as per our tier 1 sources?
Yeah, so we do. Gary Jacobs is the most reliable person, tier 1 source from the Spurs Express and Tottenham tiers. He has said that it is a 2.5 million straight loan until the end of the season, and then Spurs will have the option to buy for 27.5 million. This is currently being negotiated and should be confirmed tomorrow. We've got the here we go. He will be a Tottenham player, but I'm sure we'll bring you all the latest news and finalised details in the next upcoming live videos.
Cool. It's a crazy story, like you were saying earlier. He turned up for Everton with the medical done, with the media duty. Said that he wants to help Everton stay up. Incredible story.
Really, James. Sorry, I was just going to say, did you see he was even replying to fans saying, I'm going to do my best to help you stay up? And then he's straight on the first private jet to London. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of people asking, is it a loan or a transfer? Is a loan with a potential option to buy of 27.5 million. And to be honest with you, it's come out of the complete blue. It's a crazy one. It's an absolutely crazy one. Do you think we will end up buying him? I guess it all depends on the form, right, Jack? Would you say this is a fit for Tottenham?
I think he's definitely got the potential to be a fit for Tottenham. You don't know. Like I said, it's a very opportunistic signing. So it's one of those that I feel like you can't really do much wrong. 2.5 million for a player who has got proven quality in the La Liga is a very cheap fee. And I think 27.5 million as well is not, in this current day and market, a lot of money. So it's a win-win really for Levy. And so it all depends on how well he performs.
Absolutely. Bronze just said Pedro Porro didn't play. I'm pretty sure Sporting were in the Portuguese Cup anyway, so he probably wouldn't have played anyway. I think it was an early stage, Bronstead, but very good observation. And thanks for joining, mate. I believe you are a new face, unless, of course, you changed your YouTube name, and I don't know who you are. But he's also saying, if Danjuma can play in midfield, I can see a good partnership with Bentancur. I don't think he's going to be a centre mid. I think he's going to be more of a winger that's going to play as a backup for Kulusevski or for Son, or potentially, obviously, other players that are playing on the wing, Richarlison. Daniel Williams thinks Danjuma will end up as a player coming on the 85th minute and not be able to prove himself, probably only play in FA Cup games. I think Danjuma's form is very off compared to what he was last season. I was doing some research into his goals, and last season he was really doing a nice return on his starts. So Danjuma last season played 23 games in the league for Villarreal and scored 10 goals and 3 assists, which is pretty good going. But this season, only 2 goals in 10 games, no assists. Obviously, for Bournemouth, he had 35 games and 17 goals, 7 assists. Incredible return. Jack, Does that concern you that he's only getting a goal contribution every 5 games for Villarreal this season?
To be honest, I wouldn't say it does. That it goes back to the good old saying, "Form is temporary, class is permanent." He's had over the past 2 years before this year, he's had fantastic seasons. Like you say, people in the chat were saying he's a 50 million player, and I believe he has got the quality to compete with the likes of Son. Yes, he might not be as good, but 6 goals in 11 Champions League games is no mean feat. Carrying alongside some other players like Etienne Capoue, Villarreal to a semi-final and just losing to Liverpool as well. It's a fantastic run, and he was really instrumental in that run. So I think he's a good player, and he's performed well in the Liga, carrying Bournemouth. I think he scored some crazy goals in the Championship, and I feel like the Championship is an underrated league where it is harder. We've seen players come from the Championship and perform well in the Premier League, like Bowen has at West Ham. So I do feel like it's a smart signing, and for a 2.5 million loan fee, I'll say it again, with an option to buy potentially for 27.5 million. You can't really do much wrong, can you? It just suits all parties, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we could be saying at the end of the season, 27.5 million is an absolute steal, right? It could be an absolute steal.
Oh, yes.
But obviously, it depends on his form. How much do you think he'll be used, Jack? And do you think, like this comment here from Daniel, do you think he'll just be a player that's going to play in the cup games?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, really, because we can see Conte doesn't like to use his subs too much. We spent 60 million on Richarlison, and he's only getting 10 minutes off the end of the bench. I think that's because he likes to play centrally more. And to be honest, how are you going to take off Harry Kane? Um, I don't really know. It's an interesting one. I think it depends how he performs in training. Depends how quickly he can take on Antonio Conte's tactics. But we've seen with Kulusevski and Bentancur how quickly they came straight into the starting 11, and we look like a completely different team in the last couple of months. I'm hoping the same will happen with Danjuma and hopefully a Pedro Porro. And we could be looking at 2 very smart signings that will help us push on. Don't forget, Spurs are still in the Champions League, FA Cup, and they're definitely fighting for a top 4 space. So if we make the correct signings and we do back Conte, as everyone's crying out for, including us, James, it could be looking positive.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, we do need squad depth. We're crying out for that. Samuel Fletcher, thanks for joining as well, mate. I believe a new face. Big up yourself. He's asking, is there a buy option on this player? And yeah, there's 27.5 million reported by one source, which could work out as an absolute bargain. It could be that we don't buy it. Obviously, we've gone for loan to buys before and actually not triggered the buy option. But listen, it's a loan. Am I massively chuffed with just doing loans other than obviously potentially Pedro Porro coming in on a purchase, on a release clause? It's how we've been doing business for a while now, isn't it? Loan to buys, Romero, Kulusevski, and there's several players that have worked on a loan to buy, but then we seem to be doing it on the other side of things where we need to be offloading players. Ndombele, Lo Celso, loan to buys with their respective clubs. I mean, Ndombele, I'm hearing, is having good games at Napoli. Lo Celso gone a bit quiet and off the radar. So all these loans, I'm not too sure about them. Jack, what are your thoughts on all these loan deals?
I don't think it's a bad idea at all, really. We know Fabio Paratici specialises in loans with obligations or options to buy, and this is probably a similar type of deal. I haven't got a problem with a loan because really, if it doesn't work out, we're only spending 2.5 million, and if it does work out, it sounds like we're getting a relatively decent price. With Ndombele and Lo Celso, Ndombele seems like he's playing for a quality Napoli side, maybe only getting a half a game, but he definitely hasn't lived up to the expectation or price tag, but maybe he's, you could argue, progressing. Would you say, James? Lo Celso, on the other hand, had a few injuries, missed out Argentina's World Cup. So it doesn't look like he's improving too much. So the scouting there was definitely not the best. But don't forget, that was for Paratici's time. So for me, Fabio Paratici has done quite well with most of his signings so far. I'd give him about a 7 to an 8 out of 10, just mainly off the Kulusevski, Romero, and Bentancur signings.
Well, I mean, those signings were like 9 out of 10, weren't they? Really, it doesn't get much better than that for the value that we paid. But obviously, this window's gone quiet. We know Fabio Paratici is in a lot of legal trouble as well. And that situation is a bit, up in the air, bit of a cloudy situation. Is that going to extend to the UK, his ban in terms of affairs with football, potentially? There's a lot of debate, guys. I would bring up every comment, but some of you are just having a debate in the chat, which is absolutely great. It's absolutely fine. Keep having a debate in the chat, but I'm not going to bring up every single comment. But if you do want to skip the queue, guys, because there is quite a few of you in there now, there is always the super chat button. You can do it for as cheap as I think 99p or £1.50 or something. I know we're in tight times at the moment, guys, but every little helps for this channel, upgrading our setup. And if you do enjoy these videos, the thing you can do for free, which really does help us out, is smash that like button below. Absolutely free to do. I'd love to see 20 likes on this video before we end it. And of course, subscribe. I've seen some new faces tonight. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Also a free option if you're not in a position to do a super chat, which obviously you know, you're not entitled to do, and that's absolutely fine. Daniel Williams is saying reality is that we have to drop Sonny to the bench and allow Richie or Danjuma so play instead, because we know we can rely on Richie and Danjuma. Can't perform any worse than Sonny if he wasn't to show up. I want to do another video on Son because I feel like we could be talking about this one for half an hour on its own, but it is very disappointing at the moment with Heung-min Son. It absolutely, it breaks my heart if I'm being honest with you. Like, he is probably my all-time favorite Spurs player, and I don't know, he just has lost his mojo. It's almost since he's had a couple of injuries, but even since the end of last season. I mean, he comes back this season, we're thinking he's had a slow start, it'll be fine, and it's not really improved, does it, Jack? Is it 1 or 2 Premier League goals this season? Actually, he's scored the hat trick, but other than that crazy game since then, I think it's the goal against Palace, and I can't remember any other goals, Jack. So he's really struggled in front of goal. He seems to have lost his speed. So I guess this is linked to the video in terms of, does Danjuma come in and put pressure on Son? Does Son step it up because of these signings coming in?
Yeah, exactly. For me, we could talk about, we could have it could be a new brand new video idea, a separate live with Son at the minute, because there's so much to talk about, so much to dive into, stats and just from what we can see as fans. But for me, bringing in Danjuma definitely could be the key to unlocking Son, because a player of Danjuma's quality, or we're hoping quality, is going to push on and realize, look, you can't just play not performing week in, week out and expect to be in the starting 11 each week. Danjuma hopefully has similar, I'm not going to say has the class or so, but has similar attributes. He's fast, he's brilliant at taking on his players, and he's composed in front of goal. I've looked at a lot of stats, looked at a lot of videos, reading in about him, and it's saying he's someone who relies a lot on placement rather than power. And that's what we need right now. When we're in front of goal, Antonio Conte relies on a counter-attacking system, and we need to take our chances when we get them. And someone like Danjuma, if he is composed and chooses his passes and can beat a man and create the space for Kane and Kulusevski, we could be getting our counter-attacking football back, which is important to me. Yes, we don't like this defensive style of football, but if we're transitioning the ball quick and we're creating chances on the counter-attack, I don't mind watching that. But we haven't had the wing-backs flying forward this season. We haven't had our midfield transitioning to our attack. And for me, I'm going off a bit topic here, James, but I think the main problem of this is our defenders aren't comfortable on the ball. Therefore, we're not transitioning to the ball to the midfield, and it's a lot slower. And that's what's prohibiting us from really challenging this season. And that's why Arsenal are doing so well, because if you can see, their defenders are so comfortable on the ball and their attack is really doing well. I'm going on a bit of rant here, but yes, I do think Danjuma will work well with Son. And I think it's going to be a good signing. And I hope we need to make a few more. We can't stop here, James.
Absolutely. A lot of people agreeing with that kind of point about, you know, putting on the pressure for the starting 11 space, and perhaps actually making these players not so comfortable in a position where there's not much depth. Adrian's confident that Sonny will find his form again, and he just needs confidence. And Felix is saying, I think we need to give him a few games break on the bench to allow him to get his act together. But at the same time, that can ruin a player's confidence completely. But what I would say about the Son and putting him on the bench, everyone was like, you're disrespectful. In fact, I remember doing a vlog. It was probably our most viewed video. I think it got 4 or 5K views. And I said at the start of it, I'm not too disappointed we bench Son. And I had people in the comments saying, you're disrespecting our king. You know, you can't bench Son, like he's entitled not to be benched. And I said in that video, I think it's a good thing he's benched, because he'll be keen to come off the bench and do well. Little did I know he was going to score a hat trick, right? I'm not going to pretend I knew that. But I did know that it would give him that extra oomph when he came off the bench to prove a point that actually he should be in that starting 11. And wow, did he prove it?
We
But then
spent
obviously
as well.
since then, he's not been it. So does he need to get put back on the bench again? Maybe Danjuma does come in and play a game, or even if it's Richarlison and Kulusevski instead of Son, and maybe that gives Son that added sort of confidence in trying to get back into the team, right?
Yeah, no, spot on. I definitely think that's needed. Like we saw, James, we were actually at the game together, and you did say, I think I might have even called a Sonny 2 goals or hat trick. But anyway, go check out that video because it is a highly viewed video and fantastic day it was. But like you say, someone who can supply Son with that competition really could give him that oomph, that drive, that motivation to say, look, I'm the Premier League current Golden Boot winner. I'm one of the best players in the world. I'm irreplaceable in this Tottenham side. And he really needs to show that. And like you say, this addition, quality on the left-hand side, quality behind Kane now, even Brian Hill improving, we're getting a bit, I would say, impressive squad depth in the front 3 positions.
Yeah, exactly that, Jack. And some really good comments coming through, guys. Some really good, sensible comments as well. Good knowledge from you guys as well. Bronstead, Felix, Adrian, all good points. AZ Mac as well. Thanks for joining. Another new face tonight. Seen 4 or 5 new subscribers hopefully tonight, guys. So if you are new, please do come back and subscribe because at the moment we've got quite a small community on YouTube, but you guys can form. It sounds not silly, but it sounds different. But you guys can interact in the chat every video, talk to each other, and get to know each other as well as us. So it's all part of the community we're trying to build here, guys. So please do subscribe and like. I can see, I think 15 or 16 likes. Let's get that to 20. I'm sure we can do it, which would be a great start back, guys. There's about 17, 18 of you watching across, actually just on YouTube. So about 20 of you across all socials, which is great. Bronstead's also saying Richarlison being injured didn't help Sonny because he had little competition, because he's a very passionate person. He knew he wasn't performing. So when he scored 3, he felt the relief. Yeah, absolutely. The passion did really come out that day. Do you know when Spurs are officially announcing Danjuma? Felix, expect it tomorrow. Apparently the medical's happening tonight. So I would expect that to be announced tomorrow, if not certainly by Thursday or Friday. Our attack is cooking once Sonny finds his spark. Our depth and attack will be absolutely amazing. I don't think I said hello to you, mate, but thanks for joining as always, mate. One of the OGs of the channel. Hope you're doing well, mate. Guys, like I said, I can't read every single comment, which is I'm surprised I'm saying tonight because it's the first one back for I think 3 or 4 weeks. So thank you all so much for the for all the comments. We'll do 5 or 10 more minutes, Jack, and then we'll wrap things up. But guys, this is sort of the time in the video where we want you guys to create a talking point, maybe about Danjuma, obviously to do with the video, but maybe about Spurs in general. Jack, before we get the comments, as we're getting the questions from the guys in the chat, so guys, ask your questions in the chat now for some talking points. Jack, I want to ask you one question. What do you expect from Danjuma? And how many goals do you think he can contribute to if he's making appearances off the bench for the rest of the season?
Okay, so I think Danjuma is going to bring that direct threat in behind, the counter-attacking football that we were so impressive with last season. And I think that's key also, bringing in Danjuma. It might not be the goals that he brings. It might not be the quality himself, but I really hope he's the key to unlocking Son. If he's not bringing the quality, I'm really hoping Son can bring back that form from last season. And I believe we will get one of the two. I'm going to predict that Danjuma is going to start this Saturday against Preston, and I think he's going to impress. I really do. And I'm thinking that's going to trigger Heung-min Son to start putting in the performances that we know he can in the Premier League. So I'm going to go for 4 goals in the Premier League for Danjuma, and I'm also going to say he's going to be quite good in the FA Cup because I can see Tottenham going on a run there, providing we don't face one of the big boys early on. So I'm going to say he's also going to score this weekend, Saturday, 1 goal in the FA Cup and 3 goals overall.
Wow.
I think he's going to be James, good in behind, quick, likes to take on a man, and that in itself is a skill, and it creates we've seen what's happened with St. Maximin at Newcastle. Although he hasn't always got the end product, it creates so much space for other attackers. And with the likes of Kane and Kulusevski, if they've got space, then who knows how many goals they could score. So for me, it's a smart signing, and I could really imagine him impressing.
Wow, a debut goal and to play as soon as Saturday. Incredible prediction there, Jack. And you said 4 goals. I could see 2 or 3. I think 4 would be a push, but I hope I'm completely and utterly wrong. And I hope he surprises us. The thing that creeps in is this Bergwijn V2. Is this a player that's going to struggle, that we know has talent, but doesn't hit the ground running in a Tottenham system? That is my concern, to be honest with you, putting it quite short and sweet. Felix is asked the question that we're going to end the video on. And he said, if we did sack Conte, would we get Poch or Tuchel? Now, I would say I think we're going to go for Poch. I think that Levy's going to eat humble pie and go back for the man that he sacked in September 2019. But do you, Jack, think that he has it in him, Levy, to offer Poch technically what he'll want? Because Poch is not going to come back on a whim. He's going to want to come back and want to rebuild and want to spend money and want to improve on his last spell, which is an awful long way away right now. Will Levy give him what he wants and promise him that budget that he will need to rebuild this absolute mess?
This is a thing, James. It's a really quite a close question, and I've been thinking about this a lot because with all the rumours about Conte potentially leaving at the end of the season, these are the 2 main candidates, in my opinion, to come in, and they are 2 completely different philosophies, 2 different styles of football as well. And I'm really stuck. I'm actually 50-50 as of today. I'm going to give you reasons for both. I think Tuchel could be a good manager if he is backed. Some would even argue, I was watching Monday Night Football last night with Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, and they said Conte has, for Daniel Levy's standards, been backed sufficiently, really. I think 190 million in the past 2 windows. If Pochettino got that money, Spurs would have been in a position to compete for titles and had a lot more squad depth in all domestic competitions. So he's had players. When was the last time Spurs sent 60 million on a forward? Like, just as a rotational player, bringing in players of Kulusevski and Bentancur. Pochettino didn't get that luxury. And I feel like someone like Tuchel, if he did identify the players he wants and Spurs were smarter with recruitment, he certainly could be a good manager for Tottenham. But then again, are we just hoping that Daniel Levy makes the right signings alongside Paratici? Because we've said it so often. But Pochettino, it's like a magical return. It just could be amazing. It's got the fairy tale story, the fireworks, to be one of the best managers in Spurs history. And let's be honest, it feels like a fairy tale that hasn't ended, and it feels like he should come back and win a trophy. But does football work like that? That's the thing. Is he going to come back and be backed? Is he going to come back and be the manager he was before? Are the players going to believe that he is the man to take them from still not getting over the line and winning a trophy? Has he got it in him? I'm not 100% convinced. James, what do you think?
I don't want to go too much on Poch because you pretty much summarised it. It could be a fairy tale story, but I just worry that he's coming back with a squad that he would inherit that is far worse than what he left with. Let's be deadly honest, Jack. He wouldn't have a player like Prime Dele Alli. He wouldn't have a player like Dembele. He wouldn't have a player like Toby Alderweireld as well as Jan Vertonghen. He wouldn't have those fullbacks. He would inherit a far worse team than what he left with in 2019. So this isn't just a case of Pochettino coming back and trying to pick up the sticks and build the fort again. This is a case of completely knocking down this absolutely ruined building and building it from scratch and building a 5-star hotel, which requires money, requires time, and requires patience. And there are 3 things that come very few and far between in football. You don't get boards being patient with managers these days because they get sacked after 6 months if they're not performing. Look at Graham Potter, already under pressure at Chelsea after 15 games? It's absolutely mental. Money, we know that this board is not going to put in loads of money unless they suddenly change their act. And obviously, this is the reason why a lot of fans don't want this board. And then you've got to think about, okay, realistically, is Pochettino going to be able to create what he did before and go the extra mile? Because his legacy depends on whether he can replicate the exact same and one step further, which is winning a trophy. And I'm just not sure that fairy tale is very realistic at the moment.
Yeah, spot on. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's the thing. It's a very balancing scales. Do you go for the proven winner again in Tuchel, and can we rely on Levy and Paratici to make the right signings to give him the tools he needs? As well as that, Tuchel, Pochettino, you would argue Tuchel 100% a world-class manager. Pochettino probably floating between the two. But are they going to be happy just potentially coming fourth and winning an FA Cup or League Cup? These are managers, especially Tuchel, who are going to want to win Premier League titles, Champions Leagues. Don't forget, Tuchel won the Champions League 2 seasons ago. He made the Champions League final with PSG. These managers win trophies. They want to be competing with Man City, Liverpool, I guess even Arsenal, Manchester United at this rate, week in, week out. Spurs need to get the tools to be able to do this to both managers, because Pochettino is going to be a complete rebuild. Tuchel may be slightly easier because he'll bring in his philosophy and might have the similar players that he requires. Because would you say Tuchel and Conte are similar managers, James?
I think Tuchel plays a little bit more attacking football than Conte. I think he's much more of a modern day manager. He's got more modern ideas than Conte, and let's be honest, he's won things more recently in a Champions League final with Chelsea in 2020 or 2021 now, I can't even remember. But listen, they've won a Champions League in the last 2 years, and that is some achievement. I wouldn't say that Chelsea team was expected to win that Champions League either. I think he did incredibly well there. I think he got a bit disrespected at the end. The form went out the window. He lost the dressing room, as what happens to Chelsea most of the time. But with Tuchel, I just don't want him. I'm going to put it out there straight away. I don't want these Chelsea managers that are rejects that didn't work out with Chelsea at the end. So then they come as, of course, Tuchel was a good manager for Chelsea. But during the end, it went sour. That's what's going to happen at Tottenham. It happened with Mourinho. Mourinho was, brilliant, laugh in the press conferences, signed some players, realised that our recruitment is also awful, realised that we're not going to back an absolute serial winner in Jose Mourinho, fail the manager, move on. We go for Nuno, who's a manager that really wasn't any better than Jose. In fact, he's a far worse manager. And what a surprise. That doesn't last long as well. I don't want to keep getting these ex-Chelsea managers. I just don't think it's just a cycle, isn't it? I mean, yes, Conte, he got us top 4, probably overachieved in the fact that we weren't expected to get top 4 when he took over, which was an absolute mess. Somehow miraculously got top 4, but why do we have to keep going for these managers that are clearly never going to work? And that you have to ask yourself the question, we can't keep getting world-class managers and just go, well, it must be the manager. I mean, you've got to look further into this. You've got to look at recruitment. You've got to look at the board. And you've most importantly got to look at that dead wood that is in that squad that has been here year in, year out, that hasn't moved on. I mean, we're talking about Ben Davies nearly been here 10 years. Eric Dyer nearly being here 8 years. Sessegnon, 4 or 5 years. Davinson Sanchez, 6 years. These years fly by and we haven't freshened the squad. It's absolutely stale. Yes, we've got Harry Kane, who's an absolute saviour. But imagine we didn't have Harry Kane right now, Jack.
Oh, my word. Like you, James, spot on. Stale is the key word right now. We need to freshen up the squad, especially with defenders. How are we relying on Dyer, Sanchez, Davies week in, week out to be some of our key centre halves? It's just not good enough. We need to spend the money on buying an established centre half, someone with experience. Like some would argue he hasn't got experience, but someone like Romero, he's an up and coming, quality proven defender in the Serie A, and he has been a revelation since he's come in. Yes, he hasn't been as good in recent games. We need someone of his quality or similar quality next to him, because he can't do it all on his own, especially if you're playing 3 at the back. Spend the money on, in my opinion, Milan Skriniar. 20 million euros is the fee being quoted to bring in him in this January. If you get 2-3 seasons out of him for a world-class or on the border world-class defender, could revolutionise Tottenham's season. It could be a fantastic signing, but we know with Joe Lewis and Levy, it's always a lot more difficult than that.
Exactly. And I think that's way to sum up. I think we could do another video on everything else to do with Spurs in terms of what we just talked about and managerial situation at the end of the year. Edward Bless, thank you also for joining at the end. And there was a couple of you also, Ahmed, Thanks for joining at the end. A few others with some great comments and some great points. If you are still watching and you haven't hit the like button, we are 3 likes off 20 likes. It doesn't seem like a mad number, but I just want to hit 20 likes for this video, first video back. And also, more of you guys joining that are new faces, please do subscribe. It's free to do these 2 features, a like and a subscribe. Makes mine and Jack's day. And if you can support the channel in any way and you want to keep supporting us, upgrading our equipment so I don't have to use this wired headphone, and getting mine and Jack some professional setups, there is always that super chat option if you are in a position to do so. But of course, nothing is, you know, what's the word? Obligatory. I probably completely butchered that. That's why I don't use long words. It's not an obligation to do so, but if you can support in any way, please do so. But the like and subscribe is the main thing we would absolutely love. Jack, I think that's all we've got time for. We will be doing more lives this week. Expect a live on Thursday night, definitely. Turn your notifications on YouTube for that one. We've got the Euro expert on. A lot of you guys asking about Danjuma, what we should expect, where does he play, is there a loan to buy option? All those questions answered on Thursday with the Euro expert, who's a great analyzer of players in Europe, and will do videos for us explaining the tactics, which will be really, really interesting as well. So please do check that out. And we did put out a video earlier about Harry Kane. So if you want some more content from us, check that one out. I uploaded it about 2 hours ago. So do go and check that one out. And to just finally finish off, to be able to put notifications on, you see that subscribe button. You can turn the bells on and turn all video notifications on, just so you never miss a live video and when we go live. And that's pretty much it. AZ Max saying, great live, boys. Some good points made by both of you. Good luck, says Hugo. Thanks for your passionate comments, mate. Did make me laugh throughout, some of them, and some great points as well from you. Bronstead as well. I would be able to name every single one, but I would just overrun. But thank you those that tuned in and did chat, and smash the like button, guys. We will be back very soon. Thanks for joining, and thanks, Jack, for joining me as well.
Anytime. Love to be back. I think we've made some great points. It's great to see everyone in the chat. I'm very impressed that we've got numbers out tonight, James. Yes, it's only 20 of us so far, but I know we're going to continue to grow, and I'm really impressed. Everyone's back for a live video because couldn't really ask for much more than tonight, James, really.
There we go. There we go. Spot on. Guys, that's all we've got time for. Expect videos later this week, and keep subscribed, keep liking the videos. Tell your friends about us, and we'll see you later. Come on, you Spurs! Oh, God, actually in the video, guys. What? That is, I can't find my mouse. Hang on.
Oh, that's brilliant.
There you go, boys. Rookie mistakes.